research question was, does disobedience help society? In order to answer this question, it's important that we first look at the definition of what disobedience is. According to the Oxford Dictionary, disobedience is the refusal to obey rules or someone in authority. Furthermore, according to Michael Smith, a researcher at University of Washington, explains that the way our world is today is based upon the actions of those who went against their cultural norms. Overall, because of that, my answer to today's question is yes. Disobedience does help society. While many may believe that disobedience alters the status quo, which in turn is a negative thing, ultimately because it alters the status quo, it allows for more justice and equality to occur. Today I'll be talking about 3 people who were able to go against society and disobey it to show that disobedience is a good thing. The first one is Malala. From a young age, Malala refused to be silenced. She defied oppressive forces who sought to restrict her access and ability to get an education. Her declaration, "We realize the importance of our voices only when we are silenced," encapsulates this. Malala was born into a family that prioritized education, but a country that wanted to restrict her access to it. And in 2007, when the Taliban took over her town, she was forced to not go to school, and all girls' schools were closed. At this time, she was faced with a difficult decision: continue to fight or live a more quiet life. She decided to fight, and only at 11 years old, she gave her first speech, a speech that directly criticized the Taliban, saying, "How dare the Taliban take away my right to an education?" Overall, her impact is incredibly enormous. According to the Pew Research Center, in only 2019, 3 years after her organization, the Malala Fund, was created, she was able to reach 2 million people. And only 3 years after that, in 2022, she was then able to reach 21 million people. Overall, without her ability to stand up against injustice happening before her eyes, thousands of people would have been deprived from the hope and opportunities that her organization gave. Her story is a clear example of the power that disobedience can have on society. In a world where violence and repression was prioritized, she did the opposite and gave people hope. The second person I'm going to be talking about is Eloise Clobel. Eloise Clobel, much like Malala, did not intend to be born into this world and change the world, but when given the opportunity, she embraced it. She was born on the Blackfeet Indian Reservation, and Clobel's upbringing and experiences influenced her ability to stand up against injustice. The problem she saw in her world was that many people were supposed to be rich compared to the amount of land that they had, yet they were not. She figured out after a bit of research that the reason because this was that the U.S. Department of the Interior was not giving them any money for the use of their land. According to calculations made in 2015, the U.S. government still owes Native Americans $15 billion. Despite her initial efforts to address the issue, she realized that litigation was the only way to actually create change. And in 1996, she filed a class action lawsuit that was now known as the largest class action lawsuit ever filed within the United States government, and included over 300,000 individual people who were created, whose money was taken away from them. The result was, after years of negotiation, in December 2009, the Native Americans were provided with $3.4 billion. Compared to this $15 million that the United States government still owes them, this is a still significant step towards equality for Native Americans, because it set the precedent that Native Americans deserve to be acknowledged and compensated fairly for the exploitation of their land. The last person I'm going to be talking about is Simone Biles. Simone Biles' Tokyo Olympic journey embodies the struggle of those facing personal challenges in the competition area. Simone Biles is a very celebrated gymnast, but she faced incredibly high expectations when it comes to excel and innovate, specifically when it came to the Tokyo Olympics. Overall, because of mental health struggles, she decided to step back and not participate in this. This caused a dramatic increase of controversy surrounding her issue. But ultimately, because she disobeyed the status quo, she was able to acknowledge and talking about mental health issues, specifically around sports. Her decision challenged the sports narrative that glorified pushing through at any cost, regardless of your health and physical aspects of it. She prioritized her mental health and well-being, shedding the light on the often neglected aspect of mental health for athletes. Overall, her impact is incredibly important because Biles' choice reverberated widely, initiating discussion on athletes' pressure and mental health. Overall, this was incredibly important as it allowed for more people to talk about the problems and challenges that they were facing. Overall, it is incredibly important that people disobey society because it allows for progress to occur, and it also allows for issues that not a lot of people to know about to be shed light on, which is incredibly important. But it's also important to address the counter-arguments to it. For example, a lot of people disobey society for not good reasons. For example, the 9/11 attack and the insurrection after Jair Bolsonaro in Brazil was not elected president. These are two clear examples of people using violence to disobey society because they did not get what they wanted. Overall, it's incredibly important that we continue to disobey society to make the world a more equitable place. Thank you.
Thank you. What is some evidence that you gathered for your paper that you didn't include in your presentation, and why did you choose to leave it out?
Yeah, so one of the pieces of evidence I didn't use in my presentation was specifically about the counter arguments that I talked about. I wasn't really able to talk and expand upon it too much because of time. For example, I found a research study talking about different ways people disobey, and as a result, whether or not that's going to actually create a positive benefit in society. And I decided not to use that in my presentation just because I didn't have enough time and it didn't fully go towards my focus of what I was trying to prove.
Okay, thanks. What are the implications of your findings to our community?
Yeah, so I feel like the implications of my findings of overall how we should disobey society can impact our community in our school, but also just in general because there's injustice everywhere, and as a result, when we disobey, that injustice can be solved, or at least a part of it can improve.
Okay, thank you.